Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the Creating in Fortnite live stream. My name is Shane Callie. I'm the creator community manager over here on Fortnite Creative and UEFN. And I will be leading this live stream for those of you who haven't met yet. Hello, hello. How are you doing today, Fortnite Create community and UEFN and UE community? It's so good to see all your faces. Welcome, welcome. Today we're going to be talking all about beans. Seriously, it's going to be all about beans. The creativity of beans, the charisma of beans, and how you can build your own bean world. So, yeah, for those of you who don't know, we have Fall Guys tools now in UEFN. And yeah, we're going to have the team on to talk all about those tools and talk about the experiences and islands that they've made, and go into detail about some verse scripts and things like that for those of you out there hungry for more verse. And yeah, it's going to be a super, super fun time. For those of you who haven't checked out the Fall Guys Islands in Fortnite, definitely do. They are super, super fun. I was having a blast yesterday playing by myself. But yeah, super, super fun. And congrats to all of you out there who have published Fall Guys Islands. You're killing it, crushing it. They all look great. But with that, I'm going to kick us off and talk quickly about some news stuff so that we can get into the details and bring the team on. I know that's what y'all are waiting for. So, yeah, let's kick off the news, Dan. Um, let's start off with we got a village. The village sample island got an update for those of you who might not have heard. Look how beautiful this is. It got a mining area, and in this blog here, you can see that they kind of worked out how it was created, the development of it from start to finish. Look how beautiful! Oh my goodness! And this is adding a side scroller into UEFN. So you can use these tools to kind of learn and create one for yourself. They go into great detail here. You can kind of see the top down that they added, all of the character design, which is really cute, and of course, the dog. And yes, you can pet the dog in the village. So definitely check out the village if you haven't yet. Super, super fun and really great for inspo. We also, of course, launched Scene Graph as an experimental feature in UEFN. This is super, super new. Creators are really excited about it. Definitely a way where you can build out areas more efficiently. I know it can be a little overwhelming for those who are new at putting things together, especially in UFN. But definitely check out Scene Graph if you haven't. Test it out. Let us know what you think. If you have any feedback, we have feedback sections on EDC and also in our official Discord. We'd love to know what you think. UE and UEFN developers alike. Let us know. Let us more. No, there's also this GDC talk inside UFN Scene Graph on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. Here, I'll even copy the link and drop it in here quick for you too, just in case. I know my lovely mods might not have it. Boop, boop, boop. But yeah, Scene Graph is pretty wild, and I know that is the thing most people are excited for since GDC. Then we have, of course, the Talisman demo updates now available in UFN. This is UE developers will recognize that this is MetaHuman. So MetaHuman has been integrated into UEFN. This is the start of it. Here is our experience, or if you did add MetaHuman into your game. So if you haven't checked out Talisman, look at this. Oh, beautiful. Super fun. And if you have and you've been playing around with that, please share with me, Callie Shane on Twitter. I would love to see, actually X, I guess, Twitter. But yeah, I would love to see. Super cool stuff. Then we also have the Speedway Race template. So this is integrated with Verse and a template where you can utilize Verse to make your rocket racing islands or tracks more unique and add more specific different gameplay elements to it by just utilizing Verse. I know y'all were asking for that when it launched. So here it all is. If you haven't checked it out yet, definitely do if you're curious about kind of diving in and creating a track for the Fortnite community for Rocket Racing Islands. Then we also have Notes in UEFN, a new great way to collaborate with your project feedback right there in the editor. If you haven't checked out Notes yet, definitely do. If you have, let us know what you think about it. Is it helping? Is it effective? Do you like it? Do you enjoy? Let us know. And then we also had our V3030 update. And more details are here. And then I believe we also had the V3040, which I might not have pulled in time, and I apologize for that. I was off last week. Don't judge me. And then with that, we also have the Fall Guys Islands in Fortnite with UEFN and Creative. That's where we're gonna stop. We'll go into the next the update that we just had next live stream, but I want to get to the juicy part because we have a lot to talk about, and that is the Fall Guys Islands. So, if you haven't checked out yet what you're capable of, or the islands that have launched alongside these tools, definitely check them out. I saw a lot of people in there playing yesterday. I know people are having really a lot of fun with the beans. So we're going to dive into a lot of details on these islands and these tools. And yeah, let us know what you think. If you have any questions, please just type question in brackets and add your question in chat as we go. We'll do our best to answer them with the different topics that come up. But if we get a ton, we'll also have to hold some for the end and try to get to them then. So get your questions ready, drop them in chat. The team's here to share. And with that, Dan, let's kick it off to the trailer for the Fall Guys Islands tools. Heck yeah, awesome. Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
We'll go through a quick little round of introductions here so everyone knows what awesome talent we have in the room. And I guess I will popcorn it too. I'll start with you, Peps. Peps.
Thanks, Shane. I'm Peps. I'm lead designer at Mediatonic. I've been at Mediatonic for about 10 years. And yeah, I worked on the original Fall Guys back in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. And yeah, currently I'm design lead on this initiative to get the beans into Fortnite and Fortnite Creative and UEFN, and it's all very exciting. I also did some classic Fall Guys rounds. We've got any hardcore Fall Guys fans here? I designed Seesaw, Fall Mountain, and the Whirligig.
Yes. Awesome. Bless you. We needed Fall Guys in 2020, as you know. All of us did. Thanks, Peps. And I guess I'll throw it to Josh.
Hello. Wow, how can I compete with the creator of Seesaw? My God. Anyway, I'm Josh Eldon, senior client-side engineer. I've been here for just over 8 years now, and I helped bring the bean into UEFN and Creative, and I did a bunch of support on our experiences like Tumble Towers and Blunderdome Blast.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. And finally, James is with us. I know James has been really excited for this live stream. He's got a ton to share with y'all. And yeah, we're excited to kick it off. What about you, James? What's your background?
Yes, absolutely. I should probably try and preserve my voice for later. But yeah, I'm James. I am a senior level designer at Mediatonic, and yeah, I was lucky enough to work on a few seasons of Fall Guys before moving on to Beanstalk, where I have been mainly working with the experiences that we're putting out. So there's 6 of them, so there's a lot to look at. Also looking at like the kind of devices that we're looking to support and trying to support as many devices as possible with the bean, and generally looking at things like the props and that kind of stuff that we're putting out too, to make sure that like we can create some really like beautiful Fall Guys islands.
Awesome. We appreciate you all so much. Okay, cool. So we're already getting questions. Thank you for that. Again, if you have questions, put question in brackets just so we can see it really easily since we've got 3 chats going on. And we really, really appreciate you. Thank you for the introductions, y'all. And we're super excited to have you. So with that, I think we're going to kick it off with the history of the bean, as a character. Peps, take it away.
All right. Well, this is the bean. This is the Fall Guy.
Glorious.
I'm sure most people watching will be aware of what this is because a lot of you are creators making really cool bean experiences. But yes, Fall Guys has been on quite a journey. We released it originally in August of 2020, and it made a big splash as a battle royale meets Takeshi's Castle style game show. We had a character that was very physical and slapstick in nature. Was really good at platforming, very funny, whimsical. And yeah, 4 years have passed, and during that time we've added different mechanics, different features. We've done a heck of a lot of collaborations, and I think the biggest challenge for us was to make something fun and accessible. We did it all in Unity as well, but I think the biggest and most exciting thing now is bringing it into the Fortnite universe. How do we take what worked and how do we improve on it and build on that in UEFN and creative? So we had a few challenges, like how would we move it from Unity to Unreal? How would it differ from the OG Bean? Looking at things like jump height, dive length, all these different granular things. Also, what kind of tools could we provide to you as creators to really make some cool bean-related islands? We think, it's great for platforming, great for parkour, great for death runs, only ups. We've seen lots of really cool stuff in the last couple of weeks, and we kind of want to build on that by adding more tools, adding more features and more functionality. I'm seeing a lot of questions about future functionality, and there's a lot of really cool stuff that you're asking for that we are definitely considering in our roadmap. And yeah, we're just very excited to kind of continue the legacy of the bean in Fortnite and just build on that. So that's where we are now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Peps. Does anyone have any questions about the bean? About the creation of the bean while we're on the topic? I know, yeah, we are seeing a whole lot of questions about devices, and I know only down. Oh, you did a tycoon with Fall Guys and UFN? That's awesome, Christian. Ooh. Yeah, I'm seeing
That's
a
really
lot
cool.
about what is coming, what is coming. They like your bean a lot, Peps.
Oh, here it is again.
Oh my, look at that. What is the name of that bean? Is it like a fairy bean?
It's the fairy corn bean.
Fairy
Fall Guy.
corn. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Adorable. Okay, let's see.
One of a kind.
What does it taste like?
What,
oh, rude. No, I'm just kidding. It looks like it tastes like
tastes like-
sunshine and rainbows, but
That's exactly it. Sunshine, rainbows, and maybe some whiskey. But yeah.
Oh. What does the bean have any bones? That's a good question.
Oh, right. There's a lot of lore as related to the bean. If you look around, there's some quite interesting artwork of what's inside a bean.
Ooh.
Historically, does it
Didn't know
have
that.
bones? It really depends who you ask. Some say there are quite a lot of bones in there, and some say it's just a jelly flubby
Ooh.
amorphous thing. So I can't give you a firm answer on that. I think I like to leave it mysterious.
Yeah, you do know though, don't you?
I like that.
Oh yes, we all know
Ooh.
the team. So
I see. Someone's like, was the skeleton leak real? I see. There's a lot. It's up for debate here. There's a lot of backstory I wasn't aware of with the bean's bones.
there's also a lot of lore as relate to the height of the bean. Like is it 7 foot, 8 foot, 6 foot? In our recent trailer for Fall Guys
1
Mobile, it was like 3 foot. So
Okay.
it
Right in
depends
the
who you
middle.
ask.
I
By
mean,
the way,
you can,
download Fall Guys Mobile. It's great.
Yeah,
you can
congrats
put
on
the you
being
can
mobile.
put the bean next to an NPC now. So I wonder if
Yeah.
that settles the debate.
Well, that's the thing. Now we've
Oh,
got the
yeah.
bean with the Fortnite character, and so it's like, well, now there's a comparison. So
Uh-oh, you hear that, chat? Now we need proof. Looks like, someone said I bet it tastes like Skittles. The only bone is the horn up there. That's, yeah, who knows? I guess we'll never know. Let's see. I did have a question earlier about now that we're mentioning mobile. Um, I know it took quite a while to bring Fall Guys to mobile. Why does it usually take so long to like move from one big platform to mobile? By just out of curiosity for those who are newer developers.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of technical and performance challenges and considerations. There's design challenges. What are the touchscreen controls going to be like? How's it going to be optimized for mobile? Fall Guys is it's a big game, and massive multiplayer competitive gameplay, which is very physical in nature. So if we were going to bring it out on mobile, we wanted to make sure that it ran really well on your mobile phone. And we also wanted to kind of wait for the right time and kind of the right circumstances. And in the end, we ended up bringing it out very recently to coincide, in fact, with the Fall Guys creator tools. We thought that was a really good time to do so. And yeah, we hope it means just more people playing Fall Guys all the time.
Awesome. We love that. I have a question, but don't feel pressured to answer this because I feel like the answer is yes, or at the very least, we are working on definitely a roadmap of sorts here. But someone was asking, has the Fall Guys team decided which devices are coming up next? I would assume we are aware of what devices we're working on, but I don't believe we can share. But we're excited.
We can't share specifics, but we are working on stuff, and we've seen what people are asking for, the most popular device requests, and we are definitely paying attention to that. And in our roadmap, we do plan to continuously support with new devices being added all the time. But yeah, I can't get into specifics about when exactly. But we are, always give us feedback about which devices you actually want to see supported, and we're going to do our best to build that ecosystem.
Awesome. And I'm seeing a lot of questions about specifics, so we'll skip those just for now until we get to I know we're gonna have a section in the future about kind of the future of Fall Guys and things like that, so I can throw some of those in there. So just know we're gonna wait till we're on that topic, just so we stay. We've got a lot to share, so I kind of want to move on to make sure we can. But one that's kind of been seen a lot on here is bean movement. I'm seeing a lot about bean movement. Will the bean be able to do the things that beans can do and on the other platforms? How do you, without going into specifics, are we considering more like movements for the beans or more things that you can do with the beans?
The short answer is yes. Obviously, in OG Fall Guys, the bean can grab. It can also dive slide. It can pull. It can push crates and other objects. These are all things we definitely want to bring into creative and UEFN, and we want to support that. And we want to go further than that. We want to bring in additional stuff as well. So yes, cool. definitely interested in those areas.
See, we're all thinking about it, guys. Don't worry. If I haven't answered your question yet, don't worry. You're dropping a lot of great ones. We're just going to move forward so that we have time to talk about the details and show off some of the cool content and go into the more of the advanced topics for you all. So with that, thank you so much, Peps, for talking about the bean. And we're going to talk about the islands that launched here with the tools. And I believe James, you're going to show off the islands, right? Or is it Josh?
Hello.
I don't remember.
Yes, it's me.
I'm panicking. No,
Josh, if you want, feel free to chime in. You know as much about these as I do. But yeah, so like alongside the tools that we brought out, we released 6 exciting new bean islands as well. Each kind of designed to like showcase different things, and each designed to really kind of inspire like creators and players out there, and really show what the bean's about in Fortnite, essentially. So, sorry, should I be seeing a video? Oh, here we go.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Good job, Dan. Good job.
Here we are. So first up, it's Tumble Towers. I know Tumble Towers very well because this is the game that I designed. It's my little baby, and I'm very proud of it. So Tumble Towers is all about climbing 16 floors of like various kind of obstacle challenges with different camera views and all kinds of different stuff going on. You're not going to know what's coming up on the next floor, and that's part of the charm. And so that's what we wanted to do here, is kind of put out something that was really varied and really gets people thinking about like the different types of like platforming experiences and islands that they could create using the bean. So yeah, we leaned into all sorts of like cool little features here to get the most out of this one and really just make the whole experience like as varied as possible. It's got some really like nice stuff in there, like using the cameras to create a sense of like vertigo and parallax and kind of get all that stuff in there to like really show off like the height of the tower as you're climbing up, to really get a sense of that progression as you're like getting up there. The fun little lift on the way down, so you can kind of reminisce about the fun time you had climbing the tower if you ever get to that point. And yeah, really, I think the kind of the general gist of like Tumble Towers is to kind of show that really like the only limit is your imagination, and your
Aw.
memory budget for your UEFN scene, but mainly your imagination.
Yay!
So yeah, that's Tumble Towers. I will actually be coming back to this one because we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into like the making of Tumble Towers and like how that was created in UEFN using our like Fall Guys props and everything. So look forward to that. So next
Awesome.
up, what have we got? I think we've got Bean Circuit coming up next. There it is. Yeah, so in Bean Circuit, you are looking to complete a big circular obstacle course that will loop you back around to the start. Along the way, you will encounter all kinds of crazy obstacles and just amazing, like platforming challenges. You'll have speed boosts and all kinds of things to deal with. So this was actually made in collaboration with our super good friends, Studio 568 and Spiral House, who helped us out, or basically who made, I should say, a few of the experiences or the islands that we are putting out, or that we have put out already. So this one, Bean Circuit, is basically the closest to kind of I would say like a traditional kind of Fall Guys round, but it does still loop around and it's still join in progress. And essentially you're looking to like set a great time and then beat it and then refine that great time. There's a lot of stuff in there like time splits and like the speed boosts and things like that are really designed around really trying to refine a great finish time and also kind of finish top of the leaderboard in your server. Yeah, so that's Bean Circuit. And I think we're moving on
Super
to Blunderdome Blast next.
cool.
Here we
Ooh.
are. Yes, Blunderdome Blast. Sweet Blunderdome Blast. So in this one, you are blasting out of a cannon and you're bouncing around, causing as much colorful destruction as possible. This one was designed by Mediatonic legend Jimmy Schubert, who is also responsible on the design side for why the Bean character feels so great. So
Aw,
no
yay.
wonder he wanted to make a game like this, where we're
Right.
showing off the bean in all its glory. And so,
Just
yeah, really
flailing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is very much a bean game. This is not a Jonesy game. Yeah, so in the case of this one, really, I mean, you can kind of see that the focus here is to really show off like the bean specific features. So here we have like the ragdoll feature, and Jimmy has basically built a game around that feature just to show kind of how powerful and kind of fun and exciting that particular feature is. Yeah, so this game, I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had just bouncing around, hitting all the blocks, but then also to kind of create a bit more competition, and a bit more of a kind of element of like competing against the other players on the server. There is the addition of things like Penguin pickups. Oh, that's a fun thing to say. And there are crowns that you can collect, and you're racing to collect those ahead of the other players to kind of get the best score. So while there's like fun to be had in just bouncing around aimlessly, you kind of also want to kind of get some focus on when one of these crowns appears because you want to grab that. It's worth a lot of points.
Very cool.
So
This looks
yeah,
beautiful.
it is. It's very zen, considering how much destruction is going on. It's a very relaxing game to play. So yeah, coming up next, I think we have Falling Up. Hooray, there it is.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so Falling Up. This is all about reaching the top without falling back down again along the way, which will almost inevitably happen. But, you know, try again, I guess. This one was designed by our rising star designer, Tom Ray, who did an incredible job on this one.
Oh.
And so I would say that this is a great showcase for like the Bean as a platforming character. That it really makes a lot of use of like specific features like our jump dive. It also really highlights how good the camera is for experiences as well, because we've changed the camera around so that poor Bean, we've changed the camera around so that you can kind of see the ground below you a lot better than you can do while you're playing as Jonesy. So you can kind of get a lot surer sense of your footing while you're playing a platformer game, which is like really important for this kind of thing. It's also an opportunity to kind of show, that we're supporting some stuff like the zip wire and stuff that's really fun to muck around on with the Bean. I think the main thing for this is just really showing the worlds of like Fortnite and Fall Guys kind of colliding in a really kind of like fun and positive way. Like so blending together like all of our like props and stuff with existing Fortnite props to kind of create something that is, very harmonious in a kind of slightly stressful way as you're trying to climb this this absolute monolith. So yeah, that's that one. What do we
What's
have
your high
next?
score, James?
What's my high score? I think I finished it in about 8 minutes. Is that
Wow.
is that a high score?
Wow, I haven't finished it, so I would say
Yeah.
yes.
Can
It's high
anyone in
for
the
me.
chat?
Is that a score?
Anyone in the
Oh
chat beat
yeah.
that? Maybe.
Yeah, chat. How high have y'all gotten? The one I played with a bunch of randoms, it was very cute because we all kept falling and then just dancing when we would land back at the start again. And then I
Oh.
also noticed a lot of people just sitting, like they would sit at the part where they keep falling and just stare at it and be like, okay, how do I not fall this time? And I'm like, man, the pressure's on.
Yeah, you can always start again. The bean doesn't get hurt. That's the important thing. The bean's
Mm,
always raring to go if you are. So remember that.
that is
Um,
important.
important to remember. The bean isn't
Yes.
getting annoyed, it's you. It wasn't the bean's
Yeah.
mistake.
Oh.
Yeah. Also, sorry, Tom would definitely like me to pass on that there are almost certainly a few Easter eggs and interesting little things in Falling Up that have almost certainly not been discovered by anyone. And he would
Ooh.
love to have some people discover these one day. So do please keep looking and keep poking around in the less obvious places. There are an awful lot of interesting shortcuts and things to be discovered in this game. Tom's done a very good job. Go have a look. Go take another look if you already have had another look.
Yeah, and keep
So
us
yeah,
posted. We want to know.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's Falling Up.
Awesome.
We have next. We have Hexagon Unlimited, I believe. Here we
Ooh.
go. Yeah, so in Hexagon Unlimited, you are looking to be the first bean to collect 250 tiles without falling. So this again, actually, we have to credit our amazing friends at Spiral House and Studio 568 for creating this awesome round. And I suppose what this one really offers is that it kind of takes a classic kind of Fall Guys final round and it puts a bit of a twist on it so that it works really well in like the Fortnite kind of like environment, and that it like really works brilliantly as a standalone round where people can basically drop in at any time, at any point in the round, and still have a good chance of winning. The fact that
Very
like
cool.
you have to kind of complete the objective, and it's not time based, it's all about how many tiles you can collect, means that someone can join late, they can make sure that the people ahead of them do not win, and then they can push to the front and get that win. And we thought that was very important because we certainly didn't want people to join this experience, this island, and to be waiting for the next round, which would have been kind of the obvious route to go with this, is to just play it round by round and have people wait. But that's not the most fun version of this that we could put out. So that's why we kind of thought really long and hard about the best way to kind of like reimagine this for Fortnite.
Yeah,
And
Meta,
obviously,
oops,
sorry,
sorry.
go on.
I was just saying Meta U2 on Unreal says, "Oh, that fixes so many problems with the hexagon game mode, being able to just drop in and continually do that." Yeah.
Yeah, that took us a lot of going back and forth to figure out, probably longer than it should, but we got there in the end, and now we can share it with all of you, so you don't have to make the same mistakes we did early on. We had, I mean, we went in with round timers and all sorts, and then people were joining when there were 20 seconds left, or
Oh, yeah.
or like maybe someone had the best survival time and it was unbeatable or whatever, and it felt a bit like a cursed design problem for quite a while. But we believed in it. and it paid off. It's a fantastic game mode. I mean, I haven't even talked about the power-ups. The power-ups, they're so good. They change so much. They help anyone
Ah,
win because you can always grab that hexamagnet and
that's so
steal all
cool.
the tiles off of the winner, off of the
Oh
leader, I mean, not the winner, because
gosh.
the winner is you. There we go. That's Hexagon Unlimited.
I haven't tried this one yet, and it looks
Oh,
so fun. So I'm gonna
you
load
should.
this
Oh, you
up as soon as
should.
our
The
stream's
the
over.
the
Very
Because
tense.
hexamagnet, the hexamagnet will make you cry. I
oh
think this is like the closest we have to like a kind of competitive, like arena based, like I wouldn't say deathmatch, but you know, like that real kind of like
We
PvP
can't say
kind of thing.
deathmatch, not with the
We
bean.
can't say deathmatch. We definitely can't mention deathmatch. But but this
I
is the
can't
closest we
either,
have to
but
any. This
but
is the
here we
closest we
are.
have to any kind of PvP. And I would say that the hexamagnet is far more brutal than any weapon
Oh
in
man.
the D word that I will not mention.
I'm thinking of this reminds me of when you the racing games I think almost all of them have something similar where you get to send something forward and then it attacks the first person at the start of the one
Mm,
that's leading everything, so that person always is like, yeah, I'm doing so great, and then you get hit, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so
yeah,
frustrating.
absolutely. I mean,
Blue
we
shell.
could talk about
Hmm.
Hexagon all day because there's so many interesting little design elements to it and so many like very interesting problems to solve, like how to stop that the problem of like that there is a leader and you can't
Right.
stop them. So a lot of the things
Mhm.
that have been introduced, and there's some pretty subtle things that are there, but there's a lot there to like really help out the people who are kind of like further down in the pack and to like really highlight and put a target on the back of the person who's in the lead. That's why they've got like the crown icon over their head and things like that. So people kind of know who they should be kind of teaming up against essentially, like at any given time. But then of course, as soon as that person falls, someone else takes their place and becomes the new person that everyone wants to gang up against. So yeah, there's a kind of like very like temporary loyalty that emerges in Hexagon Unlimited.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think that that's the kind of thing that raises the stakes so high that you feel, addicted to keep playing, and that's the best part though, because emotionally affecting you when you're getting to
Mm,
that level, and we love that about our games when it's getting a rise out of us in some degree.
absolutely. And then
Very
last
cool.
but not least, we have Penguin Pickup. Penguin Pickup, hooray!
Oh.
So in this mode, yeah, this is a real developer favorite. We love Penguin Pickup. I love just saying it. I even said it in the other ones without meaning to.
I can tell.
Um, so in Penguin Pickup, the task is to find all the penguins around this little diorama, this little scene that you've been dropped into, and then you want to make your way back out to the outside of the arena as quickly as possible. You want to get the best time, you want to beat everyone else, and then you want to go back in and you want to improve on that time once you know where the penguins are. And again, this is our third island where we've collaborated with Spiral House and Studio 568. I mean, they've done an absolutely incredible job, as you can see. Like this feels a lot like it's just a brand new Fall Guys round type, but we get it exclusively in Fortnite, which is good fun for us. And one thing that I particularly like about Penguin Pickup is just how it completely embraces the idea of like the Fall Guy existing in the Fortnite world, because once you go into these little arena setups, they are just all Fortnite assets. Like we have the little kind of dome essentially around them of like the Fall Guys. I feel like that's where they've dropped into these little scenes. But then once they're in there, they're in the Fortnite world, and they get on with the Fortnite world incredibly well, and they have a lot of fun in there. So we think that's this particular one is like a really good showcase for like how you can just basically drop the bean into Fortnite, and it is completely at home.
People Mouse says, it's a good name or a good game when it's fun to say, or good name
Yep.
when it's fun to say. Honestly, both, probably both.
That's true. Yeah, it's nice. It definitely helps when it's fun to say. I mean, I think one particular thing I really like about Penguin Pickup is how it almost feels like a game of several phases. Like initially, it's kind of an exploration game because you are just searching these fun little environments, just trying to find the penguins at all. Once you found them, then it becomes about, can I find them again? Do I actually remember where I found them the last time? And then it becomes a bit of a memory test. And then once you've kind of got that down, then it becomes really about how do I optimize my route around these arenas? Like how do I kind of navigate from Pegwin to Pegwin 6 times as quickly as possible, get back to the edge of the arena and bank that time. And then I guess if you're me, there's another phase where you kind of slightly despair at how hard you find it to remember where 6
Aw.
Pegwins are. But yeah, so
aging.
it's got layers, this game. It's got a lot of depth.
Very cool. I have, forgive my ignorance, Pegwin.
Yes,
Is
Pegwins.
Pegwin is an original Bean universe character?
Absolutely. I mean, maybe I feel like
Okay,
this
I
is a
don't know
pet,
a lot
as
about
the
Pegwin.
resident lore master, I feel like this is maybe a Peps
Yeah, I need to know
question.
more. I need to know more about Pegwins.
Yeah, well, yes, Pegwin is a classic Fall Guys character. We have a couple of Pegwin related rounds in OG Fall Guys. Basically, where you're chasing Pegwins and trying to catch them. But yes, it's kind of an iconic. The Pegwin is iconic, almost as iconic as the bean. So
I could tell.
we had to include several references to Pegwins throughout all of our islands. Otherwise, we'd be in trouble with
I
all
love
the
the
Fall Guys
name
fans.
too. It was the name. How did the name come to be? Because that's the thing the most compelling to me. Just fun to say, but also unique.
Well, you have a penguin. It's kind of
Yes,
penguin-esque.
right.
But it's more than a penguin. It's a Pegwin.
I love that.
It took about 20 of us in a room trying to figure out a cool name, and we ended up with Pegwin. So
Oh, I love that. Okay, we've got swimmable
that might not be
Texas.
true, actually. I'm going to have to go back to the team on that and find out who actually came up with the name
This is
Pegwin, or I might
serious.
get in
Yeah,
trouble.
that's a whiteboard I really want to see, like all those potential names.
Swimmable Tech says Pegwins only have one leg. That's why it's a Pegwin.
That's
know
a better
what?
answer than I gave.
You're on to something there. I feel like I bet someone's 6-year-old said penguin wrong. Oh, community likes to call Pegwin Bert. Oh, cute. Okay, it's just a little Pegwin. Okay, sorry guys. I forgive my ignorance. Again, I was 2020
No, I love that we have
has
some
changed a lot of
really
things.
hardcore Fall Guys fans in the chat. This is good. We've
Yeah,
got
this
some
is good.
Particularly hardcore Pegwin fans.
Yep, it's iconic.
It's another
Makes
level.
sense. Someone probably wrote it on the whiteboard and the UI looked like a W. You know what? I'm loving how this is evolving. Gonna have to try it out tonight. Yeah, definitely Pacific Line. All right. Well, thank you so much for walking us through the experiences. And then I know we're gonna jump into a deep dive on the Tumble Towers, which is so cool. I'm so excited. And thank you so much, James, for working so hard on on your baby. It is super cool. So yeah, let's dive into it.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear you enjoyed it. I'm gonna try and talk about how that came about.
Yay!
Yay! So welcome everyone.
Yay.
I would like to give you a behind the scenes all access pass to Tumble Towers. Here we are. Woo!
Yay!
Yeah, Tumble Towers. It doesn't need any introduction. I have already introduced it previously. In case you've forgotten,
It's true.
16th floor obstacle course. Every floor pretty different. There's a couple of themes we return to, but let's just say everything's different on every floor. And it's big. It's a big old thing. And so actually going about making it took a little bit of thinking and a little bit of organization. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of start pretty high level, and then I'm going to get a little bit more into some details, leading to eventually handing over to Josh to talk about some of the real clever stuff, the verse stuff. I'm not going to talk about the verse stuff because I don't really know verse, but hold tight, verse fans. You will be rewarded in time. Yeah, so I guess the topics I'm going to kind of cover here, basically starting with like how I kind of organized and set up the project in the first place. There's a lot of stuff going on in Tumble Towers. There's just generally a lot of objects. There's something like over 10,000 things in Tumble Towers doing one thing or another. So like how I actually kind of organize all that stuff. I'm going to be looking at how the kind of flow of the levels works. So, how you're kind of finishing one level, starting another level, how we kind of make that feel as kind of seamless as possible and like keep up the momentum. So you kind of feel like you're racing and you don't feel like you're doing some kind of a elevator sequence between levels or teleporting or something like that. Like we want to kind of keep the speed up, keep the momentum up and the fun. So talking a little bit about how we've done that. Going to look at specifically how kind of use like the props and things to kind of create the lovely layouts, and some little tips and things for how best to use those, like best practices and ways that you can kind of use props like most efficiently, like within UEFN, to kind of create your own layouts. I'm going to have a little look at two specific floors. I'll kind of keep you in suspense about which ones they are, but I'm going to kind of cover some like specific details on a couple of floors where I think there were some particularly interesting like design challenges to solve, or like some like kind of interesting like device setups and things that I'd like to go into. And then at last but not least, I will talk a little bit about the obstacles that are in those floors and talk about a little bit of best practice for how you like work with moving objects in UEFN before passing over to Josh to talk about this. So yeah, I guess I'll kind of jump in and start talking about the actual structure of the project. So early on, like in prototyping, kind of found that the fun thing was to put all the interesting stuff in between the towers, come up with all kinds of interesting ideas for how you could get from one tower to the other, and then as quickly as possible, get you up onto the next floor, get you back out onto another floor, and get you starting another completely different floor and experiencing something completely different. And so in that way, I kind of approached the development looking at the towers and the levels separately. So the towers, like there's an awful lot of assets involved. There's a lot of kind of organizing, but it's a lot of like quite repeated stuff, right? So like here, I've got all my folders for all the different floors, and these are completely separate from the actual gameplay like levels in between. But if I like dig into say like tower floor 1, we've got like all the geo in a folder here. And so if I kind of select all of that and bring that to one side, where are we? There it is. So you can sort of see essentially the tower is this little setup of geo repeated essentially 16 times up the towers with little changes at the very top and the very bottom. But so I wanted to kind of settle on like what a template for this could be as quickly as possible, like during development and during prototyping. So I kind of we tried out some like test floors and like what felt like a really nice kind of size and length of floor like in between these little tower sections, and like from prototyping kind of settled on there being like kind of 20 tiles of gameplay space in between the tower to put like a fun little obstacle course. That felt like a great length to do. And then also moving 2 tiles upwards, because there was generally a feeling of like you wanted to be kind of moving up a little bit on each floor. So you wanted to be kind of like jumping up onto something to feel like you're progressing and to kind of all go into that general feeling of like climbing the tower. So I found that I could kind of get the gameplay to work really nicely following those rules, and then also settling on like how high the actual overall tower should be, like how tall I wanted these little elevator sort of sections to be, and kind of working out essentially how high is a bean going to get bounced in each of these floors. And so once we kind of settled on those numbers, we were able to settle very like confidently on like this is the tower layout. That's great, and now we can focus on like actually making the levels that go inside. So yeah, I think that's like the general kind of setup. There are like in terms of like the actual levels, again, these are all set up in their own folders. So here I've got, for example, level AA tutorial, and I've set this up in such a way that I can move these floors around. I can swap these floors with one another. We could like balance it, and we could go, you know what, I think this floor should go down to, and we could just shift these things around, and all the logic and everything will kind of move with them without needing to actually mess with the actual tower, because the artist would quite like to be able to put little colors and things on the different floors. So ideally, we didn't want to shift around the actual tower geometry. We just wanted to shift around the actual gameplay floors in between. Yeah, so in terms of actually how the kind of flow works, like going from one floor to another, So here's the tutorial level. So you would kind of go through here, you get your kind of start timer going off here. You go through to the end, and then we have some volumes here that will kind of identify that you finished the level. A lot of these volumes would also lead into camera setups. I essentially had quite a number of camera setups that you can kind of see here. That are all kind of various types of cameras, like some which feel like side scrollers, some which are like isometric, some that are top down or facing the bean or whatever. So kind of depending on which floor you're on, which direction you're going in, and whether we want collision or not on those cameras, there were like different camera setups that would all be kind of toggled through as you go through these volumes. And then as you're kind of entering these spaces, like we kind of developed the nicest way possible for getting you from floor to floor as efficiently and like with the most fun as possible, and also making it clear where you need to go when you get to the next floor. I think our first iteration of these little end rooms, it had like a bouncer in the center here, and you would just kind of bounce up a big sort of lift in the middle of the scene. You would pop out the next floor, just bounce up in the air, and you would just keep bouncing on that spot until you move off. And we play tested that for a bit, and we got some feedback of like, you know what, I'm kind of going between floors, the cameras are changing, there's a lot going on. I find that I'm losing seconds trying to work out where I should be going. And so, that's why we kind of shifted the bouncer to the very far back. We put in these arrows and things that I'll talk about in a bit. And you're getting bounced up from the very back of the room up to the very back of the room above. But then we've kind of got like an angled bouncer here, which is giving you some actual kind of direction as you arrive. So this will kind of force you to move in the direction that we want you to go in for the next level. So even as the camera's changing and all that kind of stuff is happening while you're kind of progressing through these little elevator shaft things, when you arrive on the next floor, no matter where the camera's pointing, no matter where the beam's pointing, you kind of will have a sense of like what you should be doing. So we were really happy like that kind of worked out, seeming so kind of intuitive when we're kind of doing a lot between floors and we're kind of changing a lot of things. And and again, like I was saying earlier, the player doesn't really know what to expect from floor to floor. So if we can kind of help them out, then brilliant.
Yeah, for those who haven't played it yet, so it's like this, James, right? Like you go up the chute, and then it does some sort of redirect where it goes boof, boof, and then like pushes you in the direction you need to be, and then the camera kind of adjusts wherever it wants to go. So it feels so good, so seamless. And then it also is like you're saying a surprise, because then where you end up, you go, oh, my camera's now in this direction, which I think I need to start running forward, or I need to do, and it's a surprise every time. It's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a combination of the way you get launched combined with the arrows. And I think after a while, it obviously becomes quite learned behavior because it is the same thing over and over again. So eventually, we can start being a little bit more adventurous and doing things like, for example, on floor 5, where we bring you out and actually point you towards the camera. But I think
loved that one.
by then you kind of have sussed out how this thing works. And I think we can kind of give the player a little bit of credit and assume that they will know what they're supposed to be doing at that point.
We do have a ton of questions. This is a very popular question stream. So can I just take a second? I want to see if there's any that I can kind of pull from.
Absolutely.
I know I saw one about the what was it? The gravity of it. Oh, where did you go? Oh no, sorry. We're getting so many questions that they're getting lost. It was about the physics. I could have sworn I just saw. And then no, did you leave me? Oh gosh, we're getting so many. Okay, let me see if I can find it.
I am going to talk a bit more specifically like about launches and things a bit later.
I found it. Okay.
Great.
Someone was wondering if there's any way to slow the momentum the beans have on moving platforms. I seem to have difficulty with beans flying when they jump off moving platforms.
Oh, wow. Well, so the bean will inherit from the momentum of a moving platform. So if a moving platform's moving at a certain speed, Josh, you may want to jump in here if I'm going astray. But I think if we go to the moving platforms, like up here, for example, if a platform's moving in a particular direction, then we've sort of actually put in what feels quite intuitive from a physics point of view of like the bean will actually be influenced by the movement of a platform. like we found that like I think in these cases the platforms have a bit of an ease in and ease out, which means that when they get to a point where you may want to jump off, like realistically, for example, when it gets to here, you might want to step off or jump off or whatever, or when it gets to here, it's slowed down. That momentum should kind of cease then, like it shouldn't be affecting you at that point because you're kind of on a static platform at that point. But that was a deliberate design choice actually, to like actually because when it's not there, it kind of really feels not particularly great. It doesn't feel correct somehow. Even within the bean's own definition of physics, it didn't quite feel right. But yeah, it's interesting. I haven't seen the question, but if it's kind of presented as like a problem, that's kind of interesting. It would be interesting to dig more into it. But yeah, sorry, Josh.
I guess it's worth pointing out that the bean does differ from Jonesy in that regard because Jonesy does just stay on the spot when you jump. So potentially why you're feeling it.
Oh, yeah. And then someone was also asking in terms of the physics too. How exactly is the ragdoll effect triggered for the bean? Is it based on velocity and collision?
It is. Yes.
Cool.
It's a shame we don't have Mediatonic legend Jimmy Schubert in the call because he knows all about ragdoll. But from what I do know, there is a velocity value that will trigger it. And there is also, yes, if you do kind of collide heavily with surfaces, you will trigger the ragdoll. The velocity, I think, it's either 27 or 28. I can't remember 100%. But if you're using a bouncer, if you want to definitely trigger ragdoll, you want to kind of use a value like that. It may be 27 or 28. I can't remember 100%.
That's right.
In that kind of ballpark. Yeah.
It's around that number, yeah.
Cool. And is there any actual physics being used in any of the islands or just clever prop movement or rotation?
All of the above. I don't know.
Cool.
Josh?
Yeah, that's
what do we think?
Mostly clever prop movement and rotation.
Very cool.
There is
and
launching.
then...
Launching is physics.
Oh, yes, definitely. And then one last one for now. Is there an intuitive way to tell the player to use momentum for a jump? Would you recommend anything in particular?
So this is actually like how you could kind of communicate that there is actually some gameplay where you would want to build up some momentum on the way. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I would like to sit and think about that
Good
for a
one.
while. I think ideally you would want to kind of introduce that in a way where like it's like a safe place to try it out. And where maybe like, oh, I can't make it to that platform when I'm jumping normally or when the platform stopped. I must have, and kind of creating a bit of a puzzle for the player where they're like, oh, okay, I must need to jump before it reaches the end to get enough momentum to reach that. But like kind of introducing that in like a fun, kind of playful way first, where the player isn't like in any danger of like failing. And then once that's kind of established, then actually kind of layering on a little bit of challenge and even having like multiple platforms where you have to like judge the momentum or something. I mean, that's exactly the kind of thing that like we think would be really fun to explore with the bean and the kind of thing that Beanstalk really offers. So yeah, that's a fantastic question. Yeah.
It is. As a player, I totally agree, James. I think because I've had that difficulty in games before with momentum or more mechanics being introduced that doesn't feel intuitive, and then you end up dying right away, and then it's a bad feeling rather than doing it in a safe environment. So absolutely, that would be awesome. Cool. All right. Well, let's continue onward. Again, if you have any questions, put question in brackets and throw it in chat. We do have more we're going to get to that were asked before later. I was just trying to stick to the ones on topic, so because we have so much to cover. But go ahead, James.
Nice. Okay, thank you. So I'll just chat a little bit about the prop galleries that we've introduced. You may have noticed them. There are hundreds of things that have now popped up to do with Fall Guys that you can use to make fun islands and beautiful gameplay experiences. So all of the props in Tumble Towers are from those galleries. I will admit there are some custom art assets where, because we do have the luxury of some art support in our team, so they've been able to come in and I mean, I think this is like partly an optimization thing as well, of like taking something where I might have used 50 pieces to make something, and then one of our artists will come in and go, you know what, I'm going to make a custom mesh for you, which is going to solve that. But in general, like all of this would have been doable with our galleries, and we obviously want to cover like the most common use cases. If we made a piece like this, it wouldn't serve too many purposes. It would be great for Tumble Towers clones, but not much else. So I'm just going to kind of dig into like the props a little bit and like how I tend to work with them. So like if you're in the Fortnite folder, like here in the content browser, I find the easiest way to kind of really dig into like the Fall Guys props that are available is to just go in here and just literally search for Fall Guys. You'll get all of the Fall Guys stuff popping up at that point, including the galleries. So I think the galleries are really good things to dive into if you're just trying to familiarize yourself with what is there. Like if you just want to understand like what there is to play with, get a really good sense and get some ideas of things you can make with them, because there are hundreds, absolutely hundreds and hundreds of floors, walls, barriers, nets, all kinds of stuff. And then there's a whole separate obstacle gallery, and then there is our amazing elemental gallery that has slime. Which
Yes.
is it's an equal third of our galleries. It deserves as much respect as the other two, even though they have hundreds of props.
We do have a question about and forgive if we don't have an answer to this, that's totally fine too. Are there any plans to release like background assets that are Fall Guys themed, like the dotted grass with lines on it, trees, shrubs, mountains, clouds, things like that from Fall Guys at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that we're talking about and that we'd love to do. I think again, it's the kind of thing where it's like we would love to hear this sort of thing in terms of like people saying, I want that, you know. If people can tell us that clearly, then which fair enough, like people are doing, and we are hearing that stuff. Then it helps us to understand like where to kind of focus our efforts. But that is certainly something that like we can sort of see where there's a gap there in terms of like we've provided all of these assets which are great for building obstacle courses, but then in terms of like getting that kind of wider Fall Guys flavor, like I think people want the skyboxes, the backgrounds, they want kind of more like incidental kind of fun background elements too. So yeah, I know, I mean we would certainly love to do that, and it's something we're certainly considering and
This one is
looking at how
a
we can support.
oh, sorry, James, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm done.
There's a good question about Penguin. Is the Penguin or BERT inside the UFN toolset as a mesh, or is it only for collectible coins device as shown in the Penguin pickup map?
So I'm trying to think. I think the Penguin, and this is shameful, but I think the Penguin may be a custom mesh that we are using.
I think you're right.
But if there were
Shameful.
a petition,
If enough people
Aw.
want Bert the Penguin,
I don't know.
then
The popularity of the Penguin and the charisma of the
know.
Penguin is shining through in these chats. I feel like
certainly feeling a bit nervous, like with the response to just
Don't
all the
feel
Penguin
nervous.
chat earlier. I was like, oh, I hope no one asks, can we use a Penguin? Because it feels so
Aw.
obvious now.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Yeah, no,
But if you want a
definitely noted.
Penguin, let us know. Let us know in chat if you want
Please
Penguin
do.
mesh.
Please do.
the Penguin
Um,
update. We'll have it in the roadmap. The Penguin update. Everything will be Penguin.
Oh, that's too exciting. Peps, you better promise.
Why did I say this?
Yeah, I hope-
Peps, what have you done?
I hope no one wants anything else except Penguins, because that's what you get.
They're all chanting Bert, 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 Bert. Oh,
Also, a
um,
shout out to. I did a bit of research offline. Shout out to Rob Jackson. So he did the original design for Bert. I think an artist
Shout out
named
to Rob.
Ash also. So
oh, Rob and Ash, thank you for your
Legends.
service. Justice for
Immortalized.
Bert.
wow.
Look, wow, yeah. Like we don't love Bert here, Ho Yi Lee.
Yeah, Ho
Great.
Yi.
Okay, cool. We'll keep moving on. If you have more questions, drop them in there. We got still more.
Oh yeah,
Great questions, y'all. Thanks so much.
Especially Penguin questions that you can
That's
gladly.
right.
I can just keep derailing this whole thing the entire time with Penguin questions. That'd be great.
It's what the people want.
I was yeah, I was talking about props, wasn't I? That was the thing that was happening.
Galleries.
Galleries and things. So yes, galleries are great. They show you everything that is available. They are like looking for a catalog, which is lovely. But they do take up a lot of space in your map, and maybe you don't want them there all the time, which is certainly the case for me, knowing kind of the galleries fairly well. And so what I've found in terms of like if you just want to create a layout, as efficiently and neatly as possible, then you want to kind of do the Fall Guys search in Fortnite. And then rather than loading up a gallery, just kind of continue refining that search instead. So, for example, I would do Fall Guys wall, and then I get that filtered down to all the walls. And then let's say I want all the curved walls, I would just add curve, and then that's filtering things down further. So obviously this will take a little bit of understanding what is out there in the first place to be able to do that, and that's where it's useful to kind of put the galleries down and like get a sense of kind of what's going on. But I find that that's typically how I'll work, and then I'll be kind of dragging and dropping more often than not, rather than like taking things out of a gallery and moving it around and duplicating it and all that kind of stuff. So if I were to like want to add a bit of geometry to the tutorial, let's say I wanted to have like a little platform at the beginning that people can practice mantling on or something, you know, I'd kind of come into where I have this stuff, and again, Tumble Towers has got a lot of stuff in it, so I try and keep things organized. So I have a geo folder for the tutorial level. And what I'll do before I kind of work in this area, I've made a folder for the geo in this level, and I'm going to make current folder. And what this does is it ensures that anything I kind of drag and drop into the scene will automatically be added to the right folder. The only problem with this sort of thing is remembering to keep it updated so that you don't later add a load of stuff elsewhere that gets added to this folder too. But in general, it's like super helpful for just keeping things organized when you have a ton of assets that you're working with. So I guess in this example, I'll just start dragging something in. So I suppose one other thing to look at here, so now that I've got my curved walls up, I think some people would have kind of worked this out, but like there are some extra information in the naming of these things that isn't necessarily crystal clear, but we kind of had to come up with a naming convention that worked to keep everything separate and identifiable and try and be as clear as possible without getting really long. So what we have, for example, is you'll see in the first one it says curve F, and then a few along it starts saying curve H, and then it will start saying curve Q at the end. The Fs are full height, so they are a standard kind of Fortnite wall height. The H's are half height, and the Q's are quarter height of a Fortnite wall. And then when we look at the final bit here, we have, for example, 1S, 2S, 3S. What this refers to is like a size factor. So each of these, so 1 is half of, oh, hang on, that's not gone in the right place. Oh, there we go. 1 is half of a Fortnite tile. So to get a standard Fortnite tile, this would be this piece here would be called 2 by 2, because we want to offer enough kind of granularity in like your assets that we actually offer kind of like half a tile as well, because we find that can be very useful to be able to do like a little curve that's not like a massive curve that covers the whole tile, but it's a little one that covers a little bit, and it lets you put a bit more detail into your layouts. So we were quite keen for our smallest size to actually be half a tile rather than a full one. So hopefully that's kind of helped if anyone was a little confused about the size stuff. But if I just drop this one in here, oh, actually, what I'm going to look at as well is the snap settings. I find the most common snap setting I work with is 128. This works really well for full height walls and floors and all that kind of stuff. Things get a little bit more granular if you start working with quarters and things. You may actually have to go down to 32 snap to get those correct, because they start to really get into their own metrics at that point. But here I've got my curved wall here with 128, which I'm just going to pop there. And then I want to put a floor above that. So I'm going to look for a floor curve. Let's see, where are we? And here we have all kinds of curves. I want a floor curve 1SA. That sounds perfect. I'm going to pop that in. I'm going to shift that up into position, which it goes into nicely thanks to the snap settings. And there we go. I got a wall and a floor. Super. And then last but not least, I'm going to polish this off a little bit with a ledge. Hooray! There's a little curved ledge. That looks good already. Sometimes if you see a B or an A at the end of an asset name, that essentially is a variant of the same thing. So if you see things where the name is the same, but it's like one is a B and one is an A, generally that would just be like a slightly different art treatment or something like that. Or maybe it will be the inside of a curve and the outside of a curve or something. But it's that thing where like the name kind of works for both things, but there is like a subtle difference there that kind of warrants putting an A or a B at the end, basically. So here I've got my ledge 1SB. I'm just going to pop that on. Oh, I missed. You didn't see that. I'm gonna do that again.
Oh.
It's nearly there. I promise you, this is my job. So yeah, there we go. I've got a little platform here, and I'm gonna just duplicate this around, just using the E key for rotate, and I'm gonna use the Alt and drag to turn this into a lovely little platform that anyone would be very happy to have in their level. So like with the Fall Guys assets in general, we have gone quite nice and detailed with things, letting you put things like little ledges and stuff that just adds like a little extra bit of polish that I think you might not ordinarily see in a lot of islands where the geometry is often kept quite basic, like in service of the gameplay. And we still want to like offer that here, but we also want people who want to go a bit further and they want to add in all the kind of like nice little trims and details and things with the barriers and stuff and nice little curved pieces. And we really wanted to kind of like go very thorough. And like if someone wants to go all out on the detail, let them go for it. I mean, there's certainly something to be said for how much detail to put into things. Like for example, here I've got a very detailed box which has little corners on it and a floor and lots of walls, maybe something underneath. Yep, it's got one underneath too. So that's quite a lot of assets. I think elsewhere, when I was working on this, I kind of realized that sometimes less is more, and I started doing things like this, where we just use a shape. So this is just one of our shape assets instead, which does exactly the same thing and is very clear and doesn't involve 50 different assets. So it's kind of up to you whether you want to get really into the details or just kind of put something down that works. I mean, I certainly think early on you're better off not getting into the details where you work out your layouts. But once you get there, it's kind of up to you, like how much detail you want to put into. And we're kind of really happy to like offer that with like the props and stuff that we have. Like I think another thing that we do with the props is we offer a lot of like colors and patterns and icons and all that kind of stuff. Like our art team has done like an absolutely kind of stellar job at really making the most of this and like putting the most value into all these things. So this is just a standard wall piece, these pieces here. But if you look kind of down here in the bottom right, we've got like color index, we've got pattern collection, we've got pattern index. So you can kind of select from a range of things here. So for example, here they've gone with color index 2, which is the nice kind of hot pink color. And they've got the regular patterns. And then they've just kind of picked the stripe pattern here. I mean, I say they, it's me. Pick the stripe pattern here to kind of like show this is a moving obstacle, beware. And I think that communicates things really nicely. I mean, this is also great for things like, you know, finish lines, checkpoints, and that kind of stuff. It's great for little arrows, so you can put little chevrons in. We've kind of talked about guiding the player around the level. And also, yeah, I mean, just in general, like it kind of helps with that sense of momentum that kind of pulls people through Tumble Towers specifically. Like while I'm here as well. Sorry, yes.
Oh, I just want to say we got some good questions for you, James. Let's see. Okay, did you make use of per project prefabs during the making of this project? Like creating a separate level and marking it as a playset in the world settings?
I did not. I did not do that.
There you go. There you go, person who asked the question.
I will say no more to disguise my ignorance. But I'm going to be doing some Googling.
Nailed it. You nailed it.
But everyone's got blind spots.
Hey, yeah, we're all learning here. Do you recommend using sequencer for moving objects?
So sequencer moving objects, yeah, that's definitely a topic.
I can talk a little bit about that later.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Cool.
That sounds good. Anything you want to say about it now, Josh, or do you think it's better to just cover it as a separate thing?
In certain circumstances, using sequencer is good. In other circumstances, it's not. Like in general, if you're moving a lot of different things all at different times, you want them to go off at different times, maybe writing your own thing via verse is better. But if you're just moving a few things and you know how they're going to move, like you want to set up more cinematic shots, then definitely sequencer.
There's another question about sequencer then, Josh, that maybe you can help with. I've noticed that if you don't move moving objects in sequencer, they don't push you. Is that a bug?
James experimented with this, and I don't remember what the outcome was.
So the question was if you don't move objects.
If you don't move moving objects in sequencer, they don't push you. Is that a bug? It says
well, there is a thing, I think. There's definitely a known issue of like if you are standing still then a moving object famously kind of won't interact particularly well right now. I'm not sure if this is talking about the same thing. I mean, in general, things won't. I would say like a moving obstacle that doesn't have any kind of launch capability or anything, typically in Fortnite won't do an awful lot when it bumps into you. So you would generally want to, if you have something where it moves, and when a player collides with it, you want that player to like be repelled, like to be bounced back off of it in any way. I would typically like recommend putting a bouncer, like for example on these moving walls, even though these are walls that just move up and down. I've put a bouncer on the front of them because if you collide with that wall, I kind of want you, and this is partly a Fall Guys thing, but I kind of want you to be physically kind of bounced away from that wall. And I found that launchers are very reliable at kind of catching the player and actually pushing them back. Whereas if you're relying simply on like geometry and collision, like often I find it needs that extra little bit of a nudge that you would get from putting a launcher on something. Again, I'm not quite sure if that answers the question, but I think that's.
Yeah, I mean, we should have parity with Jonesy as well. So however Jonesy behaves, the bean should also behave in those circumstances.
That's super helpful. And kind of similar similar topic here. And for if we can't answer, that's totally fine too at this point. Many Fall Guys props depend on UEFN to create like workarounds or add different tools to make it work. Are there plans to make dynamic props available to creative? I know that was a question we got a lot at the beginning, Peps.
Yeah. Yes, we definitely plan to bring in some dynamic, already working obstacles for creators to use, because we definitely know that's something that would, you know, help the creative process if you don't have to spend more time figuring out how to make things work with verse, etc., etc. So yeah, in our roadmap, we fully intend to support with working dynamic obstacle devices.
Cool. And I know we were kind of talking about this a second ago, but people were wondering, how do you guys usually handle the fact that moving props won't collide with the players if they're standing still? What do you recommend for kind of solving that? Is that the bounce
Yeah,
effect that you put?
it's the thing. This thing again to highlight. I think it's always putting so in my experience, I found that putting a bouncer on everything, even I think this is a good example of the moving wall, because you wouldn't necessarily think of it as something that you want to bounce the player or launch the player or whatever, but obviously you can keep the values pretty low. Like here it's a bounce velocity of 12, which is pretty low. But it's enough just to kind of like physically push the player back. Whereas I wouldn't personally rely on just the obstacle, like just the geometry, the physics of the geometry and the collision to actually kind of meaningfully push the player back or away from the obstacle, whether it's whether it's moving or not. I mean, this also applies to static things, right? Like if you want something to be kind of forced back from a static object too, it's just bouncers get a lot of use.
Yeah,
like
that makes
probably
a lot
the
of
number
sense.
one used device for me would be the bouncer gallery, and specifically the mushroom launcher in my case. That's my favorite.
There you go,
yeah.
folks. How you
Yeah,
solve it.
I recommend the mushroom launcher. Mushroom bouncer or whatever it's called. It's got the most functionality. You can swap out the mesh
Super
to
fun.
anything. Doesn't have to be a mushroom.
There you go.
Although, why not? Could be a mushroom if you want it to be. Yeah. Are we
Someone is asking,
yes.
but I don't think we'll have the time, but it does help Roji to know that that's something you would like. Could you show how you've set up your bouncers? Is it just replacing the base mesh with your own to fit the size of the prop?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's have a look now. What have we got? We've got a mushroom bouncer here on this door, for example. Let's see. Let's try and get some space.
Oh yeah, and then
So
someone's like, yeah,
really
how do you remove the shape?
So I've scaled up the collision. I think I've made that visible. I don't know if that was visible to begin with. And yeah, the static mesh component. You can go into the static mesh component of the mushroom bouncer, and you can remove it. And then also in the jump collision, you can actually set a static mesh for what collision you want that to use. So that can be, for example, a cylinder or a cube. So elsewhere, let's see, what's a good floor? So like floor 6, where I've got a lot of bouncers. It's kind of a good example of that. You'll just see there's a lot here. These are mushroom bouncers as well. And yeah, here I've just replaced the collision with a cylinder. So that kind of more closely matches like the shape of the actual bouncer. And I suppose like advice I give on this as well is like try and be quite generous with the collision as well. Like I wouldn't try and match it to the geometry exactly. Don't know if can't remember exactly where the option is here to, there we go, visible. So here you can kind of see the bouncer, and here I'm turning this on and off, but I've overlapped the edges of it a bit so that if a person just runs into it, like if you just run into it with a bean, I kind of want you to be able to use that. So I've just overlapped it with the collision here so that will launch you too. I don't want you to like bump into that and have a bit of a sort of disappointing, like, oh, that didn't launch me, I guess I got to jump onto it then. Like I kind of want it to all be as smooth as possible and just kind of work as frequently as possible when the player clearly wants to use it. And again, I think it's like just adding a little bit of leeway above it, like a little bit of extra collision there, just to make sure that it's I think it just kind of shores up the reliability of it, make sure that it recognizes that the player's overlapped it and applies the launch. I mean, you don't want to go too far, obviously, but you want to make them big enough that they'll definitely catch the player and like apply the launch. Yeah, and again, mushroom launcher, stand by it. It's great. Use it everywhere.
Got a couple comments. Great. I was running into issues for things like the tall cylinder bouncers and being able to get the bounce effect on all sides of the bouncer. Is that why using the mushroom bouncer is better?
Yeah, so the mushroom bouncer, I mean, I guess I'll just, turn this into the mushroom bouncer segment, but
Getting a lot
the
of
mushroom
questions.
bouncer, this is Fall Guys Tools, everyone, the mushroom bouncer. Yeah, I just think that the velocity stuff is really good. Obviously, it has a lot of health stuff on it, which isn't really applicable to the bean, but what is it? There's a bunch of useful stuff. I like the fact that it has the low gravity settings and the increased air control settings and things like that. You have the option of like forward velocity as well, so like you can kind of push players in a certain direction, like if you want to do that as well. It just, to me, like having spent a fair bit of time with the bouncer gallery, which all have their own quirks. Each bouncer in there, I love them all, but they're all different. They're all unique. And to me, the mushroom bouncer is the one I would put my stamp of approval on as a Fall Guys bouncer. For now.
Someone did say, for now, someone did say, when I tried to make obstacles bouncy, I replaced the jump collision of the tire device and moved it so it covered the area that should interact with the bean. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a fairly similar practice, really. I mean, the thing is, like all of these, there are a lot of bouncers and a lot of launchers, and they're all a little bit different. Some of them share the same settings, some of them have different settings. Like I say, they've all got their own quirks and things. I've basically found that in my experiences with them, and I have tried them all, the mushroom bouncer is the one that is just the most robust and just works as expected, like the most. Yeah, I think it's just got the best. It's got the sort of easiest shape to work with as well, just by default. I think the tire bouncers you can swap things out and stuff, but they start off in quite a unique kind of interesting shape to start with.
That makes sense. And
Yeah,
Spanky
I mean,
Sully is saying, you can duplicate that jump_collision and have one device in world for infinite bouncers. And everyone's saying that's a great tip, Spanky.
That's cool. I didn't know you could do that.
Wow.
Cool. Well, we got through a lot of questions. Thank you, James.
No worries. I mean, I suppose, yeah, I guess it's like for every time you wanted the velocity to be exactly the same, and I guess generally you do want that to be fairly consistent. I mean, wow, that's a great pro tip. Definitely one to try out. Really pushing the device to its limits there. I don't think that little mushroom bouncer ever thought it would, reach such heights. Such utility. Wow, maybe Tumble Towers could be half the memory budget if I'd done that.
There you go, chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were asking about someone was asking about Tumble Towers. I'm impressed with Tumble Towers memory usage, how it retains everything loaded. Is that possible with the memory limits on creator accounts? I believe so, right, James? Like this was
Yeah, it's
created.
the same memory limit. I think it was definitely there was a point where like the number of floors was increasing and we were nudging up towards the memory limit. And I think that does at some point become a factor of like, okay, so yeah, where does this end? How much does each floor cost? How much efficiency can I actually how much can I actually improve the efficiency of like each level, and how much logic do I really need? Where can I reuse stuff? I'd say we're using the same tools really. I think the only difference I would say is I think once we got in our kind of art assets that our art team made for us, this probably saved replacing all of the individual walls and stuff. I mean, obviously it looks pretty, but it also probably saved about 10%, I'd say. And so I think we would have just scraped in under the memory budget without them. But that's with 16 floors. So if we'd wanted to do 20 floors, then at that point we'd have to, you know, have another look, see where more savings can be made and things. Yeah.
Digital Mushroom says mushroom launcher quantum event.
Yeah, well, it's
That's
all
right.
coming back to mushroom launches, isn't it? Because that would
It
probably be the
really
solution.
is.
If
Oh.
that would get the memory budget sorted.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry, I can only think of mushrooms now.
Yeah,
Everything else
sorry
is
about
gone.
that. It's
It's
you
okay.
know what, we're giving
What
the
everyone
people
seems
what
to
they
want.
want, so that's oh, that's what we're here for. Ah.
Shall
Okay.
I move on to the next part of my tour, or do we have more
Ooh.
questions?
Let's see. I think those are all the questions kind of about this. There's other questions. Someone asked how many beans are there a while back. Do you know how many beans there are at this point? I assume no one has that on the top of their head, but
What, like ever?
yeah, like ever.
Infinity
that's a good
beans.
question. I mean, yeah, thank you, Peps. Good answer.
There
How
is an
many was
endless
it, Peps?
infinity. There is an endless supply of beans.
That does make sense. It's very on brand for where this is going. Soon mushroom bouncers in OG Fall Guys create. Just mushroom bouncers.
Oh,
This
I
was an
think, sorry,
interesting question.
while we're
Oh, go
talking
ahead.
about bouncers,
Yeah.
I did actually have a little section I was going to do on
Oh,
bouncers, but
yeah,
we
yeah, there
basically
we
covered
go.
it at this point.
Right.
I think one of the only other thing I was going to say was where we're using bouncers on things like spinning bars. We kind of found that like it helps to actually give the bouncer a bit of a tilt, so that its kind of launch direction is a little bit more uppish, and that just kind of gives you like a nice kind of clean launch that will lift the player off the ground, and it kind of prevents like any kind of drag that you might get where like the player's kind of being pushed along the floor. It's just a
Wow.
bit more
You say
fun as
clean
well.
launch. I say
Mm.
it's trauma.
No.
Being thrown off.
Believe me, the bean feels no trauma. The bean loves
The
it.
bean. There was another question I saw in the chat, which was, does the bean feel fear or
Oh my
afraid?
gosh.
Beans are not afraid of anything
Wow.
Or
Oh
even
my
the mushroom
gosh.
bouncer.
except the mushroom bouncer,
Yeah.
What?
the infinity
Beans
mushroom
love
bouncer. Yeah.
mushroom bouncer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Adds up. It fits the lore. That makes perfect sense. Thank you, Pep.
I'd say the only other bouncer that is kind of offering me something the mushroom bouncer doesn't have is the pinball bumper, which I'm
Mm.
using on bumpers at the moment. So this has like the good thing about the pinball bumper is it's kind of directional in terms of like the direction you hit it in, it will send you back in that way, which ordinarily launchers will tend to either launch you directly up in the air or in the direction that the creator picks. Whereas the pinball bumper has a bit more, it's a little bit more responsive to like where it's being hit. So I've kind of used on the bumpers, I've used a pinball bumper, where I've scaled the different types of physics, and I've just hidden the mesh again. So yeah, that's the only other sort of bumpy, physicsy, launchy thing I wanted to call out. I think everything else is mushrooms, all day.
You heard it here first, folks.
Mm.
Super cool. Okay, cool. Any other questions about Tumble Towers from chat? Haven't checked out Tumble Towers, definitely do. It's super fun. And it's very I guess innovative in the way that it throws you into each new level in a different direction. Really, really love that about it. So if you haven't checked that out, check it out for some inspiration. Definitely cool. Getting a lot of love in chat. Hi, Tom. Tom Jank is here. Tom Jank is going to be our next fireside chat next Tuesday. So if you want to learn a little bit about our wonderful Tom Jank, who he does daily warm-ups where he creates very unique or interesting things in UEFN and then posts them on X, and we appreciate him. A lot of inspiration there. But yeah, cool. Let's see. Oh, there is one question. You mentioned something about camera collision.
Yes, I did. Shall I elaborate on camera collision?
I believe
With
yes.
the cameras, you have the choice of. This is a specific variable I have not clicked on for a little while, so let's find it again. But there is a setting on cameras somewhere. Boom collision. That'll be the one. So this is a variable that decides or sets whether the camera should move in or kind of clip when a piece of geometry moves into the way of it, like whether it should kind of zoom in. Like originally on Tumble Towers, we had a thing where we had quite small doorways where you're going in and out, and the camera would kind of zoom right in and then zoom right back out again afterwards. And then oftentimes we don't want there to be any collision on the camera, like for example on floor 5 here, where you're running towards the camera and you're often behind these little bumpers. So you will be obscured, and we really don't want the camera zooming in and out every time you go behind a bumper, which was happening originally. So in those cases, what I'll do is I'll kind of put in a trigger volume like this, and that will switch the camera out to a camera that might basically be identical, except the fact that it doesn't have collision anymore. And then there's other times I want the camera to have collision, like in this entrance bit here. When you first come in here, if you kind of run straight here through the wall, I don't want the camera to do that. I want the camera to sort of stay there, even as you come close to the wall. So at that point, I would use the version of the camera that's exactly the same, but it just, doesn't, it collides, it has boom collision, so it will collide with the wall and not get stuck through it. So there's been a little bit of, there were definitely some passes on Tumble Towers of like improving the camera behavior and also thinking of how the level design could help that as well. So like opening up these entrances was a big part of that. Just kind of creating these big spaces that would kind of let the camera have room to breathe a little bit. Even in these cases, though, I'd find that like if you ran close to the wall, you could still get camera issues when we switch between collidable and non-collidable cameras. So I would sometimes put in things like these doorways, which will kind of focus your bean into the center where we can apply the camera switch. There are many volumes. One of these is a volume that is changing the camera from a collision camera to a non-collision camera. But I kind of want that to happen as you're in the center where you're kind of away from geometry. And yeah, so that kind of creates a nice clean. It's a little bit of smoke and mirrors in terms of like swapping between these different cameras to kind of get the view that players would expect. And we kind of made things a little bit tricky for ourselves in Tumble Towers because the camera changes so much. That it created all sorts of interesting little challenges. But yeah, I'd like to think that you can basically get through Tumble Towers without thinking, oh, that camera isn't doing what I need it to do. Unless you really hate the isometric cameras, which some people do, but I think they're cool. So there.
Super cool. We have a few quick questions about Tumble Towers. How did you configure lighting for the Fall Guys Islands? For my own, the lighting is more pleasant art direction wise on platforms that don't support Lumen. For the life of me, I couldn't find a way to make Lumen not blow out the scene. Environmental light rig versus day sequence device. That might be more of I don't know if that is that relevant to the UEFN side.
It's tricky. I mean, there's certainly some post-processing work and some lighting work that's gone in. Unfortunately, I wouldn't really be the person to talk about that. I think the best thing, the most I contributed was setting a time of day in that case. So unfortunately, I'm not best equipped to answer that question, but it's something we can take away and get an answer. Maybe it's something we can share in Discord or something.
Definitely.
From someone who knows what they're talking about.
We do have a question about the pinball bumper devices. How did you configure pinball bumper devices on the bumper pulls to have perfect cylinder collision? We tried this in our own project, but found the pinball bumper devices construction script would overwrite our custom collider.
Oh, yikes. Yeah, I'm not changing the collider, and I don't think it's cylindrical either, actually. I think I've kind of stuck within the limits of what it will let me get away with, but they're actually, yeah, they are rectangular. So I think I've just basically mapped it. I'm trying to click on this thing. Where is your collision? There we go. Yeah, it's actually rectangular. So I think I have just kind of embraced that constraint and gone with it and made it as best as possible. It still, still tracks well enough to get away with it, which is what matters.
That is what matters.
Yeah.
And Goofy says, how did you make the pink water? Did you duplicate the Fall Guys water element? I had to avoid that because it was consuming a lot of memory.
Ooh. Yeah, this is a custom asset actually. This is using a custom material. So
it's also technically slime.
Sorry,
Ooh,
yes, it's slime.
That's the law. It's
not
Fall
pink
Guys
water.
slime.
Yep. Thank you, Lore Master Peps.
Thank you, Lore Master Peps.
I think that's that question answered. No, it's no. I'm afraid I can't give you a particularly great answer on that. We have a custom material with a fade on it and all sorts of lovely stuff for that. But I think it's quite apparent that yeah, people want good slime. So that's certainly on our minds as well.
All right, cool. Sweet. Well, thank you so much for walking us through the deep dive on Tumble Towers, James.
No
I know
problem.
we're getting to the part where a lot of people have been asking for more verse content, and we've got some verse stuff to go over. So yeah, let's take it away.
Yeah, thank you for your patience, everyone who was just waiting for cool verse stuff.
No, it was amazing. Thank you.
Okay, no pressure then.
No pressure, Josh.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I can talk a bit about how we did our movement in Tumble Towers. I'm not actually in the Tumble Towers scene. I just made a very simple one just to help show off what I'm going to do here. And I say what I'm going to do, it's already done because I did it this morning. So
very nice.
for Tumble Towers, we created two verse scripts. One's called a rotator and one is called a translator. And obviously the rotator rotates stuff, the translator moves stuff. And these two scripts are used throughout Tumble Towers. I don't know exactly how many times, maybe like there's 100 to 200 instances. Maybe James knows off the top of his head, but something like that. And we went for this approach because we could have used sequences or we could have used prop movers, but it was mostly for the flexibility that verse offers in terms of like adding new functionality and how easy it is to manage in the level, which is, that's super important when you have hundreds of moving obstacles. And in this level, I've actually made two very simpler versions of the rotator and the translator device, just so I can easily explain them, and it kind of has the core movement functionality that we used. And then once I've gone through that, I can briefly show the final versions that we ended up with and that are being used in Tumble Towers today. So we open the translator device simple, which is what I made this morning. You can see it's only 35 lines of code long, so hopefully that's not too scary. I didn't know exactly how technical to go with this, so I'm going to explain a bunch of things, and maybe one day I can come on again and do more advanced stuff if that's if we want that.
Yeah, let us know. And if you have any questions for Josh as he goes, please put it in chat with a question in brackets so we can pull them out. Take it away.
Cool. So yeah, first thing I'm doing here is I'm defining a root prop that the user can assign in the editor. This is the thing that we're going to move. And then I'm also defining a couple of other variables, the duration, which is just how long it's going to take to get to its destination. And finally, the actual destination, which in this case is just a vector free at the moment. And I'll speak a little bit about that in a sec. I've also got a function here I made called doTranslate, which is just being called in on begin, so that when the game starts, the prop starts moving, which is what I want in this case. And so all the core movement logic is going to be done using the animation controller, which is part of each prop. I'm using this get animation controller function here. And all that's doing is returning the actual animation controller of the prop. And if I go to the animation controller, it says used to move and animate the position of creative prop objects, which is exactly what we want in this case. And this works by, you have to define a set of keyframes, and these keyframes sort of say how you want to move the prop. And just in this case, all we're doing is moving it. So we want to adjust this delta location here. And the key thing here to remember, the key thing to remember about this keyframe delta is that it's a delta. So if we look at this delta location here, get a little bit more information, and it says it's a world space coordinate with the initial position of the prop acting as coordinate 0, 0, with coordinate 0, 0 being like the important part there to remember. And so what we're doing is we're just passing it in our vector 3. And if I jump to this scene, I have a little translator device simple here, and I have set the destination to be 1280 in the X. And what that's basically going to do is it's going to add this value to where the platform currently is. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, I've just set the root prop to be this platform here. So this is the thing we're going to move, and the duration is 5 seconds. And so what's going to happen is it's going to take the position of where this platform currently is at, which is minus 640, 640, 1280, and it's going to add 1280 in the X, because that's what I set it up to be. So this is where our first keyframe is going to take platform, and this is all I want, because I have a very simple obstacle course where you just go from here to here. Nothing like Tumble Towers. And so go back into the code. So we've set our destination as the delta location. For the delta rotation, I don't care about rotation, so I'm just going to pass in a blank rotation, which you can do by these curly braces here. The time is the duration that we've set up here. Again, a user-defined variable. And finally, arguably the most important part is this interpolation type. And I say it's important because this is going to make it look good. In any game, ever, if you just give it an ease in, ease out interpolation, it's going to make it look amazing. So basically what that means is, as it starts moving, it's going to move from 0, and it's going to slowly move up to a certain speed, and it's going to slow back down again when it gets to the destination. And so it's going to give us a nice like sine wave of movement. Top game dev tip there. Always use ease in, ease out.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, all I'm doing is saying, set the animation to these keyframes that I've defined here, and then the animation mode I'm using is ping pong. So that just means it's going to go back and forth forever, basically. And then all we do is say, play this animation. And that's it for this symbol translator, and that's going to work just fine. So if I start the game, 3, 2, 1, you can see in the distance there, my platform is moving really nicely. That's all I want in games. Nice moving platforms. Beautiful.
It's very smooth, Josh. Very smooth.
Thank you.
Ooh, look at that easing in and out.
Such interpolation.
So I can go on to the rotator quickly, or if there's any questions, I can take them.
No questions so
Okay.
far, I don't think. Let's see. Would you add a setting props? Yeah, there's one, but I don't think we can answer it. Would you add a settings menu for props so creative users that don't have a PC can make improved maps? That's good to know, but I don't believe, we have anything to announce on that. But yeah, if you have any feedback, about these tools at all, please do share. We are collecting that. Any feedback? Oh, and I even have it up. Where did I put it? Let me grab it really quick. Well, guys, feedback. Here we go. If you have feedback on the islands, the tools, anything, I'll drop that into chat. We have a nice thread on the forums that you can go to and share that as well. Or any ideas or things that you would like, will be all ears. So thanks so much, Josh.
Cool. So we did the translating, so we did the moving back and forth, and now we can look at the rotating, which is here. Also only 45 lines of code long, and It's basically the same as a translator. The only real difference is I'm just substituting the location for a rotation instead. So I'll just go over the changes quickly. So the first thing I'm defining here is a rotation direction enum. It can either be clockwise or anti-clockwise, and this is just so the user can basically say, I want it to go clockwise or anti-clockwise, and then I'm just exposing that here. Again, I've got a root prop. This is the thing that's going to rotate, and I've got a duration. And just to note, this is a duration for a full 360-degree rotation. And then here I have a do rotate function instead of do translate being called in on begin again. And so what I need to do first is I need to figure out, so I need to multiply the rotation direction by a certain angle. And if I go into UFN, it's kind of easier to explain. So basically, if we go in the positive direction, it's clockwise. If we go in the negative direction, it's anti-clockwise. So all I'm doing in verse is saying, if the direction is clockwise, then give me a 1. If it's not, give me a -1. And then I am timesing that by pi float, which is just a member inside the verse digest, and it's literally just pi as a float. So it's 3.14. And so I have my angle now, and I also have a half duration defined here. And that's because for our keyframes, I'm making 2 keyframes. Because this function here, where I'm going to calculate the delta rotation, is called make rotation. This is in the Unreal Engine digest. And with this function, you say what axis you want to move on. In our case, it's Z, and you have to give it an angle in radians. And pi float, so pi in radians is 180 degrees. So we're going to move by a delta rotation of 180 degrees on the Z axis. And then we're going to do it again. So we get the full 360. The reason we do it twice is because I'm pretty sure this is the reason why. I might be corrected, but it's because when moving to the delta rotation, we find the shortest rotation possible. So if we try to just move 360 degrees in one frame, it's not going to rotate because we're already at the shortest rotation. It would just be 0 because we're already at 360. So we need to make a half rotation and then another half rotation so that we actually move. I hope that makes sense. And then again, I'm just setting the keyframes to be the ones I've just defined here, and I'm setting the animation mode to loop this time, so it just loops continuously forever. And you can see that over here. A nice smooth rotation. And you can jump off. And you can get momentum off of this as well. Nice. Which is cool.
We do have a few questions that popped up right around when we started this segment too. Question, does each platform have its own verse device, or are you hooking them up in one array?
Good question. So in this example, each platform or object has its own device, and that's the same for Tumble Towers as well, actually. But you could do it using. I do have
some examples.
Oh.
There are some points where I've found that the same mover will move multiple things. So we could potentially switch back over to Tumble Towers. Not to steal your thunder, Josh.
No, go for it.
Yeah, whatever is easiest to display.
Come on back.
Feel free.
Come on back, everyone. Is it displaying?
Can you see it, Dan? Is it working?
Throwing a spanner in the works here. Hijacking Josh's perfectly put together workshop.
I don't know where our tech side is. Our tech side is going. I don't know.
But I do have, I mean, to kind of introduce what I'm talking about, I do have, like for example, on floor 5 of Tumble Towers, there is a symmetrical layout where, depending when you arrive, one of 2 doors will be open and you'll be kind of sent one way or the other. Like in this one here, where you're being kind of pursued by slime. Depending on when you arrive, I want people to be able to jump in straight away when they arrive. So one of these 2 doors will be open and you'll be able to get in. But exactly the same thing is happening on both sides. And so, for example, where I have these 2 bumpers, they are both kind of these props are both kind of parented like within the same mover. And then I guess another example would be, oops, sorry, I'm crashing through all the floors. Up here on this one, I have a whole bunch of moving platforms. If I kind of go into game mode, you can see that in terms of where the actual devices are, they are all on this setup here. And even though I've got 4 kind of different sections, 4 kind of different quadrants or whatever, it's all set up in one place. And then where I'm using the timings on these, I'm just kind of also finding where the timing on, for example, this platform here will match with the timing on this platform here. I'm just parenting all that stuff to the same mover. You know, same up here. There will be like, I don't know if I can quickly show. Well, this is not a prepared section. So let's see. What have we got? Okay, you can sort of see. You can almost see it better when I'm not there. But there are 4 different platforms around this section that all inherit from the same mover, just because they all happen to want the same thing. So there's kind of no sense in just duplicating and having more devices in that are doing exactly the same thing in that case.
They're
yeah.
asking, are you just attaching those props to each other and linking the base creative props with the verse device?
Yeah, so I've got, what is this? This would be, I think, the root prop. Sorry, I'm trying to work this out as I go. But we have the translator device, the target for where the movement is, both parented inside like a root prop, and then I've also just parented inside the different props that I want to be kind of moved by this thing.
Very cool. Thank you.
Sorry, that was a hijacking.
No, all good. Thank you, James.
Let's see. Let me ask this next question in case it might work for that too. I don't know. Is there any issues with momentum on the platform while it's moving? Can I change the speed in verse code?
Yeah, you can definitely change the speed of a platform in verse code. In our case, it would just be reducing the time that it takes to get from one position to another. And you could do that in verse, and then the full guy would just react to the platform change. There would be no problem there.
Nice. And then is the verse script similar to the one in Prop Mover?
What does Prop Mover have a verse script? I don't know. It kind of does the same thing as Prop Mover in a way right now, but if I show you the more complex version we came up with, I can show you why we didn't use Prop Mover. We went with verse.
Got it. Cool. Sweet.
I can do that right now, actually.
Yeah, let's do it.
So
I know we're getting close to time, so hopefully you guys are okay to stay a little bit longer. I know we want to cover the tutorial we have and then do a quick blurb on the future, but yeah, just let me know.
all good with me.
Yeah, all good.
Cool. So this is the final translator we came up with. 144 lines long, so like, only 100 more lines of code we added. And honestly, a big chunk of this is just defining more variables that like James can come in and tweak, so he has more control over what the prop is doing. I won't go through this line by line. I'll just highlight some of the big changes we made. So I've defined a couple of enums up here: move to complete type and move to type. Move to complete type is just like what happens when the root prop gets to the end of its movement. Like it resets, it ping pongs, does it stop and reset, etc. And we also have different ways of defining a target for the prop to move to. This is just really for a better user experience. I can quickly show that actually in the editor. So here so this is the translator device, not the simple one. And I've set it up so that I'm going to move to a target, and my target is this lovely gray sphere here, which is just a child of the platform itself. So what's going to happen is it's literally just going to move to where that gray sphere was, and then I can just go around in the level and just move it wherever I want, and then the verse will just say, okay, move to here this time when we run the game again. And that's kind of another reason why we did it through verse, right? I don't think you can't do this in prop mover. Prop mover is just you set a distance and it goes, whereas now we can like easily define where exactly we want it to go. And that level of detail, I'm sure it's better for level design. Not that I'm a level designer, but I expect it to be. Cool, yeah, and
And
then
confirm, yes.
thank you. And what else did we do? So we added a few triggers, just one for when the prop has started moving and one for when the prop has finished moving. This is just so that we can hook stuff off of that, like maybe you want an explosion when the prop gets to the end of its movement, and then you can just use this trigger device and you can hook up to the on triggered event and then do whatever you want. This is just some setup. I added some functions so that we can show and hide the platforms. And they're just built into the prop object itself. And then the core change is really in the movement logic here. So I'm using a suspends function, which means I could call this function asynchronously, and it lets me do stuff like looping. I won't go specifically into that. I think there's a load of really good documentation on the UFN docs if you want more info on that. And really what I'm doing is, depending on what's been set on the device in the world, firstly I'm going to grab where we need to go to. This would be the delta location. So you can give it a target like I just showed, or you can just give it a straight up transform if you want, if you don't need to give it a target. And I also had this multiple targets in here that I never got around to implementing, but we didn't need it in the end, so it didn't really matter. Then I'm just making sure we show the prop. If there's a start delay, if you want it to wait a bit before it starts moving, you can do that. Call some triggers, and then there's a nice change here actually. So this move to ease function is an extension function. So I've extended the creative prop type to have this function. And we have a mediatonic utils verse class. And in here, there's a bunch of functions that we write if we're going to use them multiple times. It's just easier than writing out the logic again in different scripts. And so the only important part you need to know is this is what it's doing. And if you'll notice, this is exactly the same as what I was doing in the simple translator device. Grabbing the animation controller, giving it some values. So all I'm doing here is just passing in those values into this function. And I'm just, setting the animation and making it play again. So you can see I've used that in multiple places here, and that just saves me having to write it out as a function in this class or multiple times. And then, yes, there's an end delay if the user has set that. And finally, we are deciding what to do with the prop based on this move complete enum, which was this thing I showed you up here. So reset, ping pong, stop, whatever. And depending on what has been chosen, we just do some slightly different bit of logic. So for reset, all I'm doing is hiding the prop and teleporting it back to the start. And ping pong is just moving back and forth. So I kind of did this manually. And what I mean by that is, in our move to ease function, the animation mode I've set is to be one shot. And one shot is, once the animation has played once, it stops, rather than ping pong and looping. And the reason for that is because that then gives me like full control over what I want to do with the prop after it's finished moving. So like I could loop through this whole thing again, depending on the setting that's been chosen. And it just opens up more functionality for the designer to go in and kind of do what they want. And that's kind of it actually. We trigger a trigger when we finish moving, and we have a bool that says, should we exit? Sorry, a logic, not a bool, that says, should we exit this loop? And depending on what we have chosen the move complete to be, we may or may not exit. For like ping pong, we wouldn't exit. We would just keep going back and forth. For like resetting, we would exit, etc. So that is the final thing we ended up with. And I'm not saying this is the best way to do this. There's multiple different ways to write this code and do it in a different way. But this is kind of what worked for us. And And we kind of got here. So we started off like this, in this simple one, and we ended up with this because what would happen is during the development process, James would be like, "Oh, hey Josh, can we do this? Can we add this functionality?" I'd be like, "Yeah, we could do that." So I'd go in, I'd add it, and then James would make more levels. He'd want more functionality and be like, "Yeah, we can do that." And it just evolved over time. And the beautiful thing about this is that I didn't need to modify existing functionality. So all the things we had set up in the level still worked. Otherwise, James would have to go back and modify a couple hundred devices, which no one wants to do. And yeah, that's kind of it. I can quickly show it off in game. I mean, it kind of works exactly the same, but one thing I didn't mention is that I set up I added some functionality so you can give it like a random start, some random durations. So we have a random start delay, a random time it takes to move, and like a random end time. So it's like it's super powerful basically. And that's kind of what we needed for Tumble Towers. And one final last point to make is that another reason we used Verse is that I can click on these objects. So if I highlight these, I can then just duplicate them, and that functionality will now all be hooked up. This will be its own device, right? This will already work. So if I click on this new translator, it's already hooked up to this one that we copied. And so copying functionality is super easy because we literally just duplicate what we already have and just adjust it. So now I can move this one like up here, and this platform is going to go up and down. And that was like super quick to implement. And yeah, that's kind of where we ended up.
Sweet. Thank you, Josh. We do have a question. Do your scripts allow for props to translate and rotate? For example, could you link the same root prop and have it perform both actions? Or is there a different way you'd need to do that?
That's a very good question. And you could do that. So if I hooked up the same root prop in here, one was rotating, one was translating, it wouldn't actually work right now. What would happen is one would override the other. So it'd either rotate or it'd either translate. What you could do is you could have a couple of props. So you would need like a parent. Let's put this here. So I could make this one rotate, and then I could make this one translate. Just ignore that it would just be like an empty parent. So then I could make the parent rotate, and I could make the child translate, and that would work fine. But a better way of doing it would actually be adjusting the script so that when we're doing the moving inside the keyframes, it takes into account the location and the rotation, because you can provide that per keyframe, as well as scale. So like you can do it all in one animation. And that kind of brings me on to a good point actually, and that is after we finished making these, the docs team, we spoke with the docs team, and they have tidied all these scripts up, and they have tutorialized them, and they are available on the UFN website, the documentation, and they're under the Learn Game Mechanics section. It's called Animating Prop Movement.
Ooh, I have that link. Hold on. Animating props. Let me grab it.
And those scripts are actually updated, so you can do that, rotate and move at the same time. And you can also do all the functionality that was within Tumble Towers using those scripts. So go nuts.
Oh, I gotta put a little space there. Wouldn't let me turn to a link. Okay, there we go. Sweet. Thank you so much, Josh. All right, cool. Well, if you do have any other questions, definitely feel free. We've got a Discord channel called Fall Guys Feedback under the Fall Guys Tools section. And I know the team is there ready to help and take feedback and also answer questions that you do have. We also have that feedback channel on EDC and the forums. So make sure to go there if you utilize that platform as well. And then with that, did we have another tutorial? We were going to show off the tutorial part. Or was
That
it
was kind of
was
it.
that was it? Oh, that
think that
was
was
the
it.
tutorial. Okay. So the verse scripts and then the tutorial of the verse scripts. Okay, perfect. All right, cool. Wow, with that, I guess we're gonna end with the future. What can we share?
Well, this was obviously this is our very first. This is the launch. This is our first release, and this is just the beginning. We have a lot of very exciting stuff we want to bring to the Fall Guys tools. A lot of the stuff you're asking for in the chat is stuff we're looking at. Fall Guys dynamic devices, more Fall Guys authenticity, whether that's skyboxes or UI or audio. We definitely also want to expand the beans movement characteristics and for sure bring in things like dive slide and grab. So all of these things are things we are very keen to bring out. I can't get specific about releases, but just know that that is in our minds and everything you're asking for. Also, continued support for existing devices. I'll probably get into trouble, but a lot of you have been asking for the VFX Power Up device. So that's quite a specific thing I'm saying there, and we're hoping to bring that to you. And other things that you've been asking for, and that will really help you get the most out of your creative endeavors. But yeah, we're very, very excited to bring more to the Fall Guys tools.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peps. A lot of love in chat. Thank you, everyone in chat from all the channels that attended today. Thank you for your great questions. We really, really appreciate your time. Again, if you want to talk to the team more, you can do that in the official UEFN and Fortnite Creative Discord. We have a Fall Guys Tools section. If you are a Fall Guys Tools or Island creator, make sure and grab your little badge in Discord as well. And for those of you on the UE side, thank you again for joining as well. Thank you for your great questions, and we appreciate you all being here. So thanks so much, team. Thanks so much, Dan. Thank you for everyone who was here and made it happen. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week for the next stream.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.